Okay, so like the my particular impression that I'm still checking on to right now is basically that right now like offer like basically sort of offer like expecting like the home like the house of like will never with mother house like put up all this like fairy like filled up like also like the interior of like the whole fairy lights as well as like the alphabets like and the alphabets as well having like the fairy lights and everything like definitely, I'm going to right now for like Hopper illustrator. I feel that basically even Hopper, I'm definitely preferring for him to like even the Hopper. Definitely, right now, like the current person, like totally genuinely suspect that connection of like the experiments and like the laboratory, whatever experiments that will be taking place in like the laboratory, energy laboratory, and like having total connection to like having a total connection to the death of like well, like still I'm going to totally preparing. Maybe I'm going to preparing like Hopper right now. Only thinking that basically the that Will had basically maybe died on that lake while trying to get away, while maybe possibly being chased by and his people. So we maybe along the Hopper might right now come to the conclusion of Stephanie Weber. So like right now, like seeing all the fairy lights and everything like as like so for right now, it's like affecting like the fairy like with like the things like with not had told about like all the happenings within like Will's home right now and everything. Usually, Papa I'm definitely putting to straight away assume that like Will's mother's not really going crazy. And even right now, like I'm personally deliberating that Will's mother still not doing her absolute best. Like even after like it would be like I'm looking for it to be like an absolute extreme shock for her with like her only just now being able to like get that absolute confirmation of like communication, proper communication from Will, not just through just likes, but right now after like her drawing like the alphabets onto the wall, like basically actually through word communication, like basically like language communication, like basically like getting that absolute confirmation, like kind of like a feeling that basically Will is like actually alive and right there, and simultaneously shock like coincidentally happening for her with like basically finding that Will's body from the lake, like basically this shock would be like too much for her, and I'm possible still her holding on to that hope that still Will is alive, that still I'm possible like even though she won't be able to like figure out what exactly is like going on, what exactly is like happening in her child, like even though like I'm possible Will's mother would be like what is fearing like her like basically actually believing that her son Will had actually died, like even after finding like the body, she would be like totally refusing to like believe that like her son Will has died. Like she will still somehow, even though she won't be able to like tell what is like happening, like she still be trying to desperately trying to hold on to that hope that like her son will be still alive. And I'm considering her right now like in front of laptop or like I'm considering her right now in her shop home, like I'm considering her desperately trying to like show off to her like the whole communication with like the alphabet that we just now had this done with her. So like I'm considering her attempting that, but like this time I'm considering like will definitely not being able to like communicate at all to her. And I'm still taking to my personal impression that like the body of Will that is found in like the lake will definitely be like the body of like some parallel version of the Will. Like there will be like the real world Will who I'm considering was like the Will that got affected onto like the parallel world, while there might have also existed like the parallel version of like Will that might have actually been initially living in like the parallel world, exactly like the parallel version of Will, like there might have been parallel version of each and every single one of them, Hopper, as well as like Will's mother, Jonathan, and everyone, like even Mike and everyone was certainly living. All of their parallel versions might have also been existed in like the parallel world as well. Seems like the parallel world as well is like the same, very exact same place is what I was referring as like the real world as well. Like it's like totally seems like deserted and like all like unclean and all like it was simply because of like the agents like totally taking over at some point in like the past that have taken over like the battle world, and like the majority of the humans might have gone extinct in like the parallel world. So like I was very still in like the parallel world, like the parallel version of Will alone might have still maybe because of its like high IQ, like he might have still managed to like still escape somehow, even though he's like extremely young, like he might have still somehow manage to like escape from like the alien, and that's like coincidentally precisely like the very night that Will's mother had communicated with Will through words, that basically through the alphabet, that coincidentally that night itself being like the night where like the parallel version of will getting once again found by like the aliens in like the uh, parallel world, and basically that will might have somehow its high IQ might have somehow managed to like move on to like from like the parallel travel from like the parallel world to like the real world. That might have been what might have happened, or like I'm talking about like the remaining survivors, like the parallel version of Will might have been along with hiding somewhere in like the parallel world, along with like a bunch of like brilliant minds in like the humans with brilliant minds in like the parallel world, and they might have been trying to like to like escape this like escape that like from this like aliens that alien creatures that have that would have like totally taken over like the majority of like the parallel world, like they might have created some sort of like a device or something through which like they might have tried to like send a human to like the real world, and maybe that first human from parallel version of like a human from like the parallel world that they might have sent might have been precisely like the parallel version of it is like my other personal theory and connection that I'm still being on to. So like precisely just at like the very last moment when Will might have been sent to from like the parallel version of Will might have sent to from like the parallel world to like the real world, and that very last second itself like I'm precisely coincidentally like the alien creature might have found out their hideout and might have taken the life of like for those brilliant minded scientists that might have made that happen for like will to travel from like the parallel of will to travel from like the parallel to the rain one is definitely one of them. So like I was bring maybe like soon after like maybe like soon after like taking the life of like all those scientists or like brilliant minded people like was bring the alien as well, maybe through that device like might have traveled from like the parallel world to like the real world and chased after like well the alien might have already seen like will like escape from like the parallel world into the real world. So like the alien as well might have already traveled from like the parallel world to like the real world. And I'm also bring like the alien might have chased after like the parallel version of in like the real world, and that might have solved like the parallel version of will at that point present in like the real world to like his attempt to like try to like get away from the alien, he might have totally fallen into that lake and died. And so like the body like of Will that basically even Hopper and if they all would be thinking it's like the real Will would be that most likely the parallel version of Will who might have actually lived in like the parallel world. It's definitely meant for real version. So like I'm just like the real world will like the real world will would still be alive. It's definitely my favorite. But like I'm just bringing like totally due to that extreme bad like that I'm just totally parting like right now with like Hopper and all the police people lectures and everyone being present in like Will's mother's home. Like right now, the bring Will's mother would be totally in shock and would be desperately trying to like convince Hopper that like convince not just Hopper but herself that basically that Will is still alive and basically like she might have like, right now like not kept up any more secret. Like she might have right now definitely told all of her secrets right now with like Hopper as to like her even being able to communicate as to like will even be even communicating her, to her through like the alphabet and everything. So that might be what like Hopper and like the police team would be right now inspecting in that precisely with mother's home. While actually in actuality, like after finding like Will's body, like they might have actually showed up to like the house of like Will's mother to precisely inform her about like them having found like Will's body, and that might be precisely when like she might have totally panicked and basically might have revealed all this about like her at that moment itself, like basically having like basically just right and itself having communicated to her will through like that and everything. So like that would be what like Hopper and like the others would be like just casually like checking out in like even I'm talking even Hopper as well would be casually checking out like the home of like this mother just to like comfort her as if like he actually believes like what he's saying. Well, deep down, definitely even Hopper and both Cooper and definitely would be noticing that like Vince mother's not like going crazy right now. With like all the data definitely fairy lights and like that look alphabets on the wall and everything. So definitely, especially with like them fighting like Vince's body, like even that Hopper would have only assumed as well, not just the remaining sheriff, but Hopper as well would have only assumed and like definitely might have only assumed in his like mind that definitely that like the actual will have died. It's definitely one of the things. And I'm also bring right now like the not definitely desperately trying to like convince Hopper and her trying to like communicate to that will through like the fairy lights right now. But like about that communication is not happening right now, especially because of like the alien just now having like sort of to out. I think that out of like we want to that basically with home, and basically since like the alien just now showed up there, like I'm wondering there might be even uh, other aliens as well. Their presence in like the parallel world version of that Will's home right now. So like so because of that reason, like Will might each time Will will be communicating had communicated him through like the phone as well as through the fairy. Like just those kind like Will might have done that communication while sneaking up and secretly like hiding somewhere around like Will's home, while like the aliens might be away from Will's home, especially when the prevent. But like since right now, like one of the aliens have basically shown up from like the parallel world into like the real world and chased after like the Will's mother, like and the brain. Will might have once again gone into hiding somewhere else, and they might be patiently waiting for like a proper time when there will be a great number of agents like right now in like the parallel world version of like Will's home around like the parallel world version of Will's home. So like especially because of this reason, won't be right now able to like once again communicate right now to Will's mother right now as like Sheriff and Jonathan and everyone are present in like Will's home. It's definitely my personal damage. So that way like Jonathan and everything, all of them like straight away assuming Vince's mother is like totally crazy, but like I'm also after they would all be like going, leaving, and I'm also trying Jonathan going like absolute but like trying to like convince that Vince's mother, his mother, precisely because like even Jonathan would be like totally afraid for like and worried for like his mother actually going crazy and everything. So like I'm also trying Jonathan does his absolute best to like try and maybe even shouting at her to like try to like probably convince her that like Will is no more like Will is gone. But like I'm considering her simply just agreeing to Jonathan just because like even though he will at all be believing that will have her son will have died, like she still be like totally putting on a fake act that she has thought she totally believes Jonathan, or like I'm considering her like even straight away telling Jonathan that she won't believe that, and she once again I'm definitely putting like the communication from Will to that really happen once again. And I'm also trying if you want the next time when will be that communicating once again through like the alphabet with like with some other like I'm also trying that communication I'm also trying which should be like happening. I'm also trying that after like the sheriff as well as like sheriff and everyone will be leaving with home like at that point I'm also trying like relentlessly I'm also trying like his mother like desperately trying to like communicate through like the alphabet, but like each and every single time like that communication from Bill I'm also trying not happening. So like I'm also trying her hope starting to like slowly fade. And I'm whispering like the scenario in which like each of like the coming days like I'm whispering like this mother that's really trying to communicate through the alphabet solely due to like her that's really wanting that confirmation that like Will is still alive, but like I'm whispering still no communication happening from Will. Certainly because like the aliens are whispering like the parallel world version of Will's home would be like present right there and not leaving for like Will's home for the time being for a while. It's like the scenario that I'm looking. So like I'm looking, it could be only after like maybe like 2 or 3 days that I'm looking. Like, in which like all these 3 days like Will's mother would be the really consistently would be trying to like communicate through like the alphabets, but like no communication would be happening. But like I was wondering, it would be like I most likely during that towards the end of like the second day or like on the third day that I was trying finally like Will's mother would once again trying to communicate to Will through the alphabets. Like once again like the communication happening from Will. And that way, like once again, her hope totally lighting up. Will's hope totally lighting up, and Will's mother getting that once again feeling that confirmation kind of like a feeling and holding on to that communication of Will to her as to that absolute belief that her son Will is still alive. It's like the eventual scenario that I was remembering and my good remembrance. And even then I was remembering that her not at all even trying to like convince like neither Jonathan nor Copper that like I feel like Will even at that point that like even then like basically Will is like totally communicating through her through the alphabets like I'm going to bring at that point her totally feeling as if like her trying to convince neither Jonathan nor Hopper would be like totally pointless. So like I'm going to bring her trying to like privately like solve like the situation with like Will and basically her privately trying to like save in her like privately by her own trying to like solve this and trying to like save Will and identifying as like on one side like she would be privately like trying to like solve the situation and same will like number bring on the other side like 11 and like Mike and their friends like literally at that point literally I'm going to bring 11 once again like being able to like cells like even after fighting like Vince body I'm going to bring 11 once again being able to like cells like Vince purpose from like the parallel world as well, just like the scenario that I'm looking. So like I was doing initially 11 trying to convince like Mike and his friends, and I was even Mike right now with like Mike right now having that extreme dislike towards like 11, and Mike totally mistaking 11 and all that like being like the current situation. Still I'm considering like 11 being able to prove that like Bill is still alive somehow to Mike is like the scenario that I'm with. Somehow I'm considering 11 being able to like prove that to Mike and convince Mike, and I'm considering that way like I'm considering Mike and his friends like basically along with like 11 like doing their eventually doing their private investigation and things into like trying to figure out how to like basically save Will. And basically while these two private investigate and there will be on the other side like Hopper like all by himself as well. Eventually basically I'm considering like Hopper the more he investigates into like Dr. Rana, which I'm considering Hopper will be totally investigating not to like bring down with like the assumption that Will has actually died, and yet like Hopper would be doing all that investigation towards like Dr. Rana to totally bring him to like justice and give him that like absolute punishment and get him arrested. Like would be like the sole reason for like Hopper investigating into Reiner. But like I'm thinking as these three investigations would be progressing, about separating like about separating both like eventually like Hopper as well and learning like of like the actually believing like the possibility of like uh, the words will mother had said like not possibly being out of her panicking or going crazy like actually that the possibility of that those words wasn't being true. And basically the more like Hopper would be investigating like the more Hopper actually possibly believing that like the body that was found on like the leg not being that of like the original will, and basically that like the original will totally being possibly alive and all that. So like I'm considering the more like these three would be investigation like Mike and his friends, Will's mother as well as like Hopper. I was bringing these three of them like initially investigating privately, but like eventually like the restrictions are about separating them all. Their whole investigation would be ending up like merging, and then also bringing them collectively investigating as like a team, and them trying to like save Will as like a team eventually together being like the distinguished the rest like maybe like about the scenario that I'm not totally perfect, but still I'm considering Hopper would be totally prioritizing like the safety of like my character's friends. So like about the bring Hopper totally do that good maximum to like push them. Even though in the distance with the different Hopper totally interacting with like my friends and basically them all collectively sharing all the information that they would have by then. Still about the bring at that point Hopper totally like considering like safety, like seeing like just like Mike and his friends like this kids like I'm doing Hopper totally prioritizing like the safety of them as kids and basically Hopper trying to like solve this and save Will all by himself. And Hopper also trying to like keep Will's mother as well away from like his attempt to like save Will is like also like the eventual scenario that I'm going because of Hopper and control for like safety of like Hopper's Will's mother as well. But like I'm considering no matter what Hopper tries, like eventually I'm considering them all collectively ending up in like a situation where like all of them will be together. Hopper, like Will's mother and Mike and his friends 11, as well as like Private and his team that would be eventually in their attempt to like basically uh, in their attempt to like save Will and like in Private's attempt to like capture like the alien and basically also catch up 11 like I was like during like the final events and showdown scenario these group of people would all be like ending up in like a location together in like final showdown scenarios, like there is a distant future scenario, final kind of like a scenario that I'm just totally putting. And in that scenario, I'm definitely putting like final still thinking to my personal research that like Dr. Corona would definitely be literally finally dying by the hands of like an alien. And Dr. Brenner definitely putting like the final scenario to not be like Dr. Brenner being getting arrested or brought to justice. And like I'm bringing the final scenario to be like Dr. Brenner usually finally having just taken his life by not 11, but like I'm bringing it to be most likely an alien. One of those like alien creatures I'm bringing could be like the mother of all those alien creatures that I'm bringing. His ambassador maybe like eventually finally while Brenner and his team would be trying to capture that alien and to bring it to be in that attempt most likely that mother alien would be like most likely would be the side would be through how like I'm considering Pranav would be like dying by the attack of like that mother alien. It's like giving scenario that I'm personally not referring and my personally okay, so like definitely my preemption right now as for like this definitely right now for like Vince mother not being able to like prove to like Hopper as for like this like creature like basically coming out of like the wall and chasing after like Vince mother like basically that incident actually happening like I'm considering right now with mother not being able to like convince Hopper solely due to like the lack of footprints of that alien creature which I'm considering like my field solely not present, possibly solely due to like I was bring the precise area, like the precise direction and the precise area, like how much like Vince's mother might have been chased by that precise alien creature, might have never had like that precise entire area might have never had like any footprints at all of like that alien creature solely due to like I was bring maybe like that precise entire area that like Vince's mother might have ran through might have been like an area with like thick short grass or something. So like that they like footprints maybe like or like it might be like such kind of like a kind of like a landscape like ground through which like was different like his mother might have ran through and while being chased after by the alien hence I'm considering maybe like the that being like possibly being the sole reason for like there are not existing like any footprints of that alien in that entire area. And that way, like, I'm considering, like, solely due to that reason, like, I'm considering Will's mother not being able to, like, convince Hopper as for, like, the incident of, like, the alien creature coming out of, like, the wall and chasing after her. It's like the scenario that I'm considering and I'm considering. Okay, so like the film is very interesting right now as for like Vince mother right now like describing like the alien creature like Hopper as if like basically it's that creature like this that animal like almost human but it wasn't like basically that specific mention of like that creature being like almost human but it wasn't like considering maybe it might be like a foreshadowing to like the eventual future twist or like a reveal that I'm considering where like I'm considering maybe these alien creatures might actually not be like creatures from space that might have infiltrated into like the parallel world of like the real world where like Bill's mother and all Hopper and all of them they went is like the other possible scenario that I was bringing. Maybe I was bringing it might have been like the energy laboratory, like the parallel version of like the energy laboratory, and like the parallel version of Brenner and his team, like basically in like the parallel world as well as the train Brenner, the parallel version of Brenner as well might have been conducting all the scientific experiments and everything and I was preparing like the parallel version of Brenner and his like parallel version of science team in like the parallel world. Like their experiments might have like reached like more of like an advanced stage and basically maybe in that advanced stage like something might have only gone wrong in their experiment and causing maybe like Brenner and his like science team like when once their energy lab experiments went wrong, like maybe like Brenner and his like science team might have gotten turned into like in their experience might have actually been with like the intention for like humans to be able to like gain like the power like superhuman powers of that of like 11 but like I was referring as their experiments like further advanced and those differing maybe like either like the parallel version of 11 herself like might have the experience going wrong to the and maybe like the parallel version of 11 herself possibly having turned into this like alien like creature uh, humanoid like yet like alien like creature that almost looks human but like not entirely human that's like maybe one of like the possibilities that I'm considering and like that alien version of like a creature might actually the mother of it all might have been like actually initially like the parallel version of 11 is definitely my perspective due to the result of like the experiments of like the parallel version of Foreigner might have found out like the parallel version of 11 like the parallel version of 11 might have turned into like this huge like humanoid like alien and like it might have straight away taken the life of like the parallel version of Brenner and just like entire science state and then it might have started to like day X and then was something like it might have started to like these X might have hashed and I'm also worried the X of these aliens as well might hatch quickly. It's also roughly by the Miriam project. So like I'm also worried like also like these aliens like so the might be like like the kind of like animals or creatures that would like lay eggs on its own. It's also definitely able to remember. So like I'm to bring. So like even that way like these eggs might have quickly hatched and even like its offspring as well might have quickly like without much great delay might have laid eggs and I'm also bring that way like this alien population might have quickly grew and I'm also bring especially since like planet the battle version of planet and its team might have been like the only people who might have known of like these aliens like I'm bring like these aliens before like escaping from private laboratory like bringing like even before that it's like the mother parallel version of like the mother alien might have laid a lot of eggs in like private like parallel world energy laboratory and all those eggs might have hatched without much great delay and so like the parallel world like basically and like this like alien like might have mother alien might have laid like way more eggs than it had laid in like the real world in like the real world and of the laboratory of friends might have been what might have happened in like the parallel world. In like the parallel world, way more eggs might have been laid in like the parallel world and of the laboratory of Private. And like the Private and Dance Science team, parallel version of Private and Dance Science team might have taken the life of by this like alien. And that way like this aliens might have quickly grew in like number and might have taken over like the entirety of like the parallel world. It's definitely my personal theory and prediction. So like that way like there will be only few survivors in like the parallel version of the humans. Like there will be only a few parallel version of humans that will be still alive in like the parallel world. Definitely that will be and one of them would be like the parallel version of Will that might have right now been whose body might have right now been found in like the lake as he traveled from like as he might have been able to travel from like the parallel world to like the real world. It's definitely my able to like I'm able to bring. So according to this theory and prediction, right now my theory and prediction is that like the precise alien, like the mother of all these aliens would be like the humanoid like mother of all these alien creatures would be like the parallel act would be like will be like the parallel version of like 11 that might have actually been born and initially lived in like the parallel world. It's definitely my particular impression right now. Also like my particular impression according to my particular impression like once like the parallel version of like 11 and his like science team in like the parallel version. Once their experiment on 11, the parallel version of 11 might have went wrong and like the parallel version of 11 might have turned into like that humanoid like alien like creature. Like at that point, I'm going to think it's indeed like it might have not just been like the bodily kind of transformation into like an alien like animal and all that might have happened. But like I'm considering like also like even like the mindset as well might have totally changed like all that like empathy and like kind-hearted that even like the parallel version of 11 might have had exactly like the all that goodness and everything that exactly like the real world 11 like the parallel version of 11 as well might have had that all that emotions good emotions until like that experience going wrong and like the alien transformation happening to the parallel version of 11 but like at that point I'm also thinking like the band version of 11 might have lost all conscious of consciousness and basically like the only thing in like the parallel version of 11 might after like the transformation might have been to just take the life and take the life of all humans because like I was bringing maybe like the only memory present within that alien might have only been like the only memory after like the transformation that might have been present in like the parallel version of 11 after like her alien like transformation might have been like that extreme dislike that she had towards like planet while even they are like friends forcefully doing all those experiments and everything. It's definitely my agreement. So like that like I'm considering that alien creature might have like transformed that single memory alone that might have been like existing within that alien into like a memory that like that memory being converted into like a memory of like just like towards like parental or turning it towards like the entirety of like humanity and basically that way like this aliens like ultimate goal being to like basically uh exterminate and wiping out of like the entirety of like humanity entirety of like humans so like that might have been what like exactly would be like even going on in like the parallel world right now, and hence why like the parallel world, like majority of the humans in like the parallel world version of like humans living in like the parallel world might have only died due to like these alien like creatures, definitely method of reimmersion. So and I'm also bring like due to like planets like experiment like energy experiment I'm also in like the real world like I'm also bring in like the beginning like due to like during like planets like some sort of like an energy experiment like I'm also bring even though planets might have not been present in like that energy laboratory during that time still I'm also bring the initial way at the very beginning like the scientist that the scientist like he might have been and he might have also had his own thing like doing like even more experiments on that energy experiments and that might have caused like a portal to open up between like the parallel world and real world and that way like I'm considering one of like the alien that might have been able might have at that point entered into like the real world from like the parallel world and that might have exactly been like the mother alien that mother alien might have been precisely like the parallel version of 11 that we got like transformed into an alien and that had that absolute XP dislike to and wanted to like wipe out like the entirety of humanity. It's definitely my preference. So like that might be how like that effect alien parallel version of 11 might have entered into like the real world. And that might be like the whole entire situation right now will be happening. So like right now I'm going to bring after entering into like the real world as well. I'm going to bring like the parallel world of the parallel world alien like that alien like the battle world version of 11 who got transformed into like an alien and would be like the mother alien like after like it being got right into like the real world at that point and considering its own thing like once again like the real world being like totally different from like how the state in which like the parallel world was like yet like the real world like buildings and everything looking like the exact same as like the parallel world like I'm considering maybe like that alien might have totally the parallel world version of like 11 who got transformed into an alien which would be like the mother alien like that alien might creature might have only gotten confused so like I'm considering right now with it that not taking the life of humans but like abducting potentially abducting humans from like the real world like I'm considering it might be trying to like maybe like it might be able to like read the memories of like the humans in like the real world so like I'm considering that way by accessing the memories of like humans in like the real world like it might be like even that the alien creature might be confused about like the real world because we're totally thinking along the lines that basically like why is this the world so different yet like the same as like the parallel world it was from so like and why all these great number of humans are basically present while like the parallel world have basically all exterminated almost like the entire different humans. So like basically maybe even like that alien creature like might be only confused. So like I'm wondering in order to for it to like precisely like with like such great number of humans like maybe like it might have decided to like precisely like abduct people with like high IQ and basically gain all their memories and basically from like the real world and read also all their memories and basically find out more about like the humans in like the real world before like trying to do a wipe out of like the humanity in like the real world. It's definitely a very good and it will be definitely due to like the experience like this alien creature might have gained from like it's like humanity extermination like attempt that it might have repeated done in like the panel world where like I'm considering a lot of like that alien creatures like mother alien creatures like offsprings might have died in that attempt due to like the humans fighting back as well with the clever prison. So like the alien creature and just like it's like offspring usually might have had to like struggle a lot before and might have also like faced might have been able to reach like the brink of extinction itself like the alien itself before it might have barely managed to like defeat and exterminate all humans in like the parallel world is definitely not possible. But like it might be after that, like basically the mother alien even and like it's often also like laying more eggs that might have been how like the once again like the population of the alien creatures might have increased. It's definitely my preference. So like from that from all that experience of like basically almost reaching like the brink of extinction for like the alien systems, like the aliens might have decided this time to like not recklessly try to like exterminate or like wipe out like the entirety of like the humans. And instead, like right now, like the alien creatures would be that alien mother alien creature would be right now through like it might have even given orders to like the offspring to like especially abduct not take the life of humans, but just to abduct humans with like especially high IQ from like the human world and basically um, and basically to go through all the memories and know more that way about like the world of like the humans and like the humans living in like the real world as well so that like they could like this time do more of a strategical takeover and attempt to like wipe out like the majority of the humans would be what like this like alien mother alien and its lack of procedure right now. I don't think it's also definitely going to be so like I'm considering maybe used to and I'm considering like after, it might have been after that energy experiment like in like the beginning conducted by the scientists in like the energy laboratory like causing like some sort of a portal to open up and basically like that way like the mother alien entering into like the real world and considering it might be after that like maybe like the mother alien might have even figured out like the way to basically travel between and move between like the real world and travel world as well. So it's also definitely maybe it might be after that like maybe that like I'm thinking about the same person that like the mother alien might have even realized like the existence of like a real world the not just like it of like basically that it's not just being like the parallel word alone. That's also like another word that's like the real word that's like kind of similar to like the parallel word yet like different and all that. Certainly I would find that mother alien like creature like basically being able to like move between like the real world, learning to move between like the real world and parallel world might have also happened like after that. It's definitely also might be the emotion. It's sort of live to the impression right now, but like for like Will's mother, like basically it's being far too clearly evident right now that like Chopper does not believe that what like Will's mother is saying and thinking that like Will's mother is like only being said is well, like I'm considering like maybe like eventually I'm considering like in the future like Will's mother like only the feeling as if like she would have definitely need like that if she gets Chopper by her side to like help her out it's like her attempt to like save will like that will like greatly increase her chance of like being actually being able to like save will. So like in order to for her to be able to do that, like her she needs to be able to like successfully convince like Hopper. So like basically in order to do that, I'm also thinking maybe like Will's mother like eventually coming up with the idea to like precisely use like a video a recorder like this to record a video while then next time she would be like Bill would be communicating with her through like the alphabet so that through that way eventually like convince like Hopper that way. And considering maybe like her attempting such a thing in like the future, and I'm considering maybe because of like this mother, especially being in such an extremely like disturbed state of mind, like I'm considering maybe like this mother won't be able to like real soul think of such an idea or anything. And I'm considering maybe like it would be like the distant future that maybe like this mother would be probably thinking along the lines of to like basically as to like the idea of like recording, to take a video recording of like basically her communication with like the and then particularly maybe in like the distant future possibly that happening. And her and particularly too possibly maybe her doing that and that actually succeeding and basically her recording like the video and her showing it to like both Jonathan as well as like Hopper who would be like totally and absolutely top. But like I'm considering Hopper maybe uh, and that way like her getting like Jonathan as well as like the Hopper and his like entire police force to like basically like help her out and like to be for all of them to basically be on her side and don't totally uh, like take it seriously along the lines of like the possibility that like Will might actually be alive even after like finding his body and all that. Like and that way like them all like actively and vigorously still trying to like find and save Will doing their investigation with that intent of like the genuine possibility that of them thinking of like even like the police analysis like and thing thinking of like the genuine possibility that Will might still be alive that there will be like a lot of like complicated stuff like science would be like involved in like the missing of Will that like that would only be unrevealed through and found figured out only through like only through like exploring like Brennan's laboratory and investigating through Brennan's laboratory. That's a situation happening in like the maybe like in like the distant future. It's like one possibility that I'm going to bring, or like the other possibility is basically even though already like Will's mother will be totally tired, it's like absolutely no one believes her. I'm talking about maybe like her like doing like she's thinking of like such a video recording idea of like her his communication with her through the alphabet and her maybe like attempting to do such a video recording thing, but like I'm considering maybe like the like maybe like at that point while she would be like doing such a communication like recording like the video of like her communication. Maybe at that point like like maybe once again like the aliens reach up like showing up to that location, and that causing maybe like even like that video recording device to like get video recording to like get damaged, or that way like her not being able to like record the video of something happening. And basically like with that single attempt like basically maybe like Vince mother like basically deciding to like she would be totally fed up and tired with like absolutely no one believing her, and like with that a single try of her video recording attempt as well like failing like like her basically giving up on like the on her video recording attempt, and that way like convince Hopper and Jonathan and also them, and maybe like her being fed up and her giving up on all that like hence her being determined that like and feeling that basically she would be able to like save Will all by herself, and let her proceeding with like like basically attempt to like save Will all by herself. It's like the other possible scenario that and the not bring and never bring. Okay, so that definitely my sister and right now with that current situation being like Mike getting angry over like poor 11 while precisely 11 is messing with like the radio phone of like Mike. Like I'm considering like especially like right now the scenario that I'm considering is definitely for like Mike to be like so extremely like no matter what anything that like 11 responds back right now to Mike like anything and everything that 11 says will be like totally triggering and angering Mike more and more. So like I'm considering like Mike to due to like that to be only due to that misunderstanding of 11. I'm considering like Mike probably even going through like the extreme, going to the extreme of saying like fiercely hurtful words towards like 11, like totally acting like extremely indifferently. So only to like Mike being in pain of like losing, even though it will be due to like Mike being in absolute pain of feeling that he has lost, will still able to bring like Mike saying taking it out on 11 to the extreme of like taking extremely hurtful words towards like 11. Like the scenario that I'm considering that like 11 considering starting to like tear up with those Mike saying all those hurtful words to us at 11. But like I'm considering at that very moment would be when like with like since like 11 even while all this things would be happening like 11 would be still continuing on like messing with like that static phone like that radio phone mic, and it would be at that very second at that very moment that I'm considering that Will's voice would be heard through that precise radio phone of Mike. It's like the scenario that I meant to put here. And that being like that moment of ultimate twist for like Mike, it's like the scenario that I'm about to bring. Like I'm about to bring like a voice coming out of like that radio phone that 11 would be messing with that point. So most likely like it would be definitely Will's words, Will's voice, and like I'm about to bring Will saying something along the lines of like Mike, I'm alive, or like I'm alive, something along the lines like just a short word. Is all I'm expecting to be coming out of that radio phone. And at that point, like Mike straight away recognizing like Will's voice through that radio phone, and that being that ultimate shock of like it was for like Mike, and then considering like Mike totally feeling so extremely guilty, and like considering Mike totally that saying that absolute sorry, that absolute regret, like Mike saying that absolute sorry to like 11, and basically, and at that point, like the moment like I'm considering like Will's voice will be heard through like that radio phone, so like Mike totally being shocked, and Mike really trying to like talk through like the radio phone, desperately asking all sorts of questions to like will as to like where he is, as to like where he is, like how can Mike save him, like how can he save Will, and where he is like along the lines like I was bringing Mike frantically asking all sorts of questions to to Will, but like I was bringing like right then I'm going to bring most likely once again like the voice of like the monsters like alien like creature would be that is what I'm personally protect. So like I'm going to bring right then itself, but like I'm referring this time most likely like the radio phone I'm referring won't be getting like electrocuted. It's like the scenario and getting damages like the scenario that I'm referring. And I'm referring it would only have to do with like the other phone of like through which like Bill had communicated to like Bill's mother twice in Italy, like precisely due to like those phones like being precisely connected to like the plug on the wall, like the sources of power would be like the precise reason for like those two phones of like Will's mother, through which like Will had communicated with like Will's mother initially. That both that phones like getting electrocuted and damaged by like the attack of like the alien would be precisely due to like those phones not being cordless phones. So like I was wondering with this in the case of like the radio phone of like Mike, since it's like cordless, like I was wondering that Bill definitely right now it is not also bring Bill's voice coming out of it. Mike has been out of it, and right then like the voice of like the like I'm also wondering like not much like will be able to like say before like the voice of like the alien like razor monstrous alien like razor will be heard through like the phone, and I was wondering straight away but still I'm considering, unlike the previous scenario, this time I'm considering Mike's radio phone not getting that destroyed or like electrocuted. It's like the scenario that I'm considering solely due to like it being like a cordless phone, like the radio phone being like a cordless phone is like the scenario that I'm considering only for it. And at that point, I'm considering Mike that only that filled with that absolute guilt and regretfully saying that absolute sorry to that uh, 11 and basically brings absolute best like comfort and like make 11 feel okay. And I was remembering like 11 for 11 like only for giving my like the scenario that I'm remembering and then like I was remembering like the whole like that absolute element of hope would be like instantly opening up for like Mike and Mike straight away like using that very same radio phone to like contact most likely Lucas and I was remembering like Mike repeating about like him having heard like Will's voice process like radio phone. And I was like at that point, like Lucas definitely thinking like Mike has gone crazy and like Lucas totally not believing Mike and like Lucas like and I was like Mike totally having like Mike and 11 having like hard time trying to like convince like Lucas and trusted that like we had heard like Will's voice through like the radio phone. And I'm wondering like at that point like really Lucas as well as Dustin not don't believing Mike and they're probably thinking that basically Mike as well has gone starting to like go crazy after like spending all this time with like 11 himself and all that would be along the lines of also bring them would be thinking Dustin as well as like Lucas at that point would be thinking this like the scenario that I was wondering. So like I was wondering like in the process of like Dustin and Lucas and also thinking like Mike like keeping the radio phone right beside him and basically Mike totally patiently waiting for like Bill to contact Mike. But like I'm wondering at that point like that phone call like contact like not happening is like the scenario that I'm wondering. And I'm wondering that still Mike desperately trying to and you know Mike totally desperately trying to like convince like Dustin as well as Lucas, but like it's really not happening. And I was pretty eventually I'm supposed to bring at usually without much creativity, I'm supposed to bring like the coming days I'm supposed to bring like at some point like Mike would be always keeping that radio phone since the contact from first contact from Bill towards like Mike up his disappear through that radio phone which I'm supposed to I think right now to happen. Like after that, I'm going to bring Mike totally keeping that radio phone with him at all times. Like him being will take the radio phone to school and always like Mike keeping that radio phone with him so that like Mike would be perfectly able to like convince and show like Lucas and Dustin when like it's like another when like another contact from will happen. So like I was wondering in such a manner like I was wondering maybe it would be like maybe at some point maybe it should be like while Mike and Dustin and Lucas would be at Mike's basement or like when they would be like you'll be one day like staying at like Castle Bios or something. When they are together, like I'm going to bring the next time after like that initial contact from Vin towards like Mike and the next time Vin will be contacting him to like probably coincidentally happen, especially when like Dustin as well as Lucas will be present with like Mike. It's like the scenario Mike and 11 all of them will be present. Will be precisely like the second time that Vin will be precisely contacting through sensor radio phone. And at that point, like definitely like Lucas as well as like Dustin totally losing their mind and their mind being blown away with like that absolute shock that like the entire of like that realization that this entire time not only Mike but like not 11 as well wasn't crazy at all. Like like basically both of them like being like Lucas and Dustin being like absolute shock. And then considering like precisely after like that first contact from Quinn through like the radio phone to Mike would be happening. I was something Mike at that point even realizing like right now since like Mike is like going is like basically like looking at the drawings that which I'm going to you know when Mike appreciates me from of like some like creature like that some kind of some like creature like attacking human and basically I'm considering those prawns should be precisely drawn by 11. So like I'm considering that like right now since like the whole phone conversation between like Will and Mike, I'm considering would be just like Will just being able to say a single word or something that or like two words that they need that he's alive or something, and basically might being able to like detect this like being able to like instantly recognize like Will's voice, but like straight away that this like voice of like a monstrous like creature, monstrous like creature like coming out through that phone and straight away with that small ending at the timing. But then like Mike talks when you're realizing like the drawings that like 11 had drawn that Mike had just then like looked at basically the drawing of like most like a creature like of like a dinosaur like basically attacking humans like basically. So like Mike being able to like shockingly connect to all this and basically like actually relate to the entire time like everything 11 was saying was like actually true and basically all that. It's like the eventual scenario that about to know everything and my brain. Okay, so like the little missionary and also right now that like since like you never had like an made precisely when Mike right now heard like Will like singing his like favorite song like and the like definitely 11 definitely would be having like the power to be able to like make a connection between like the connect the frequencies between like the real world as well as like the connect the frequencies of like the radio sounds between like the real world and like the parallel world. It's definitely able to prevent. So like as for like how exactly 11 might have known that like Will who's like currently trapped in like the parallel world, he has like a radio phone as well with him. Like as like how exactly 11 might have known that like I was wondering, either it might be due to lack 11, according to like my earlier prediction, like maybe it might be due to lack 11, always being able to like see like the parallel world, while 11 is like the real world, like 11 might have only superhuman powers using the which like 11 might be able to like see everything that's going on in like the parallel world as well, while 11 is present in like the real world, and that way like 11 might be able to like see when in that trapped in like the parallel world and what exactly Will is doing each second is definitely my good. So like I'm considering right now 11 might be able to like only see Will holding on to his like radio phone in like the parallel world and singing this his favorite song onto like the radio phone. So like but still like since like Will is trapped in like the parallel world, Will might not be able to like easily communicate with like through like radio phone. Like I'm wondering even though like through that radio phone like Will might be able to like call his contact his home like but still my secondary assumptions are like even Will might have like adjusted like especially first of all my secondary assumptions definitely that like as to like how exactly Will might have totally been able to like call his like mother twice like I'm talking before like the was got electrocuted twice by like the Indian creature like how exactly that might have happened might be definitely not through like Will actually phoning his like home, but like unfortunately what might have happened might have definitely been like exactly like how Will have like the power to like control like the light in Will's home in like the real world. I'm considering like it would be like since like the phone as well is basically a device that's like connected to electricity. I'm considering that would be like the sole reason and sole path through the path of like the electrical energy source would be like solely through how Will might have been able to actually actually in that basically call Will's mother from like the parallel world through that precise phone in that Will's home in like the real world. It's definitely my memory. So like that might be the sole reason for like Will being able to like actually call Will's mother in like the real world from like the parallel world. It's definitely my memory. That's definitely my memory. That like as for like Mike boarding Mike's phone like I'm considering either Will might have been so extremely scared of like a, in like a situation like the barrel one that Will might have only spent the safest of like the might have only felt that he might the best chance for him to like get saved might have been to like basically to seek help from his mother. So like maybe that might be the reason for like Will precisely activating like the phone through like the electrical energy bill is activating like the precise phone on his like home in like the real world and that way calling his mother and secretly that way trying to seek help straight through his mother. Or like the other positive is that like Will might have also maybe like attempted to like head towards like Mike's home in like the parallel world, but like at that point like we might have realized that like there might have been like some sensitive episodes, so that like maybe there might be a great number of aliens that alien like creatures like that are surrounded in that might have their base or like that might be surrounded um, in like the location where microphone would be. So like basically activating mics like a real world phone would be like way more of a difficult task for Windows definitely might also. So like this might be the reason for like Will not even to this point Will even while having twice contacted his mother through telephone and those everything like still will not even having contacted might not even once like might for any Lucas or Cousin not even once only because of the reasons definitely. So like I was saying definitely Will might have still like desperately might have Will might definitely be having his like a radio conversation. So like I'm saying Will might have switched up might have tried might have been that by now might be like totally fed up with like things like definitely Will might have tried multiple times with like changing up the switching up the frequency of his like a radio phone and should only communicate with like either mic or loser or nothing. But like all that attempts might have only failed for them solely due to like him being trapped in like the parallel world of definitely made different. So like I'm going to bring even if like the frequency from like the parallel world radio phone of will might have matched with like the frequencies of like the real world radio phone of either Mike Lucas or the full still Michael Revolutions and like since they are like split or like divided between like the real world and parallel world. And possibly there definitely would be like that extra effort needed to like bridge that frequencies like between like the real world and parallel world and connect them together. And like only like 11 would be having that superhuman power. So it would be only through like 11 superhuman power that would be possible like to connect like the frequencies between like from like the real world and the parallel world. To do that like only to be only possible through 11 like superhuman power which definitely will be and this might be the processor reason for like 11 right now having like the those leaders like right now might just hearing like will basically singing his like favorite song. So people actually like right now like 11 like totally being able to like only see like the panel world like 11 always being able to like see everything going on in like the panel world and 11 might be totally even while right now Mike was like totally playing 11 might have only been able to see that basically in like the parallel world basically an extremely tired Bill like basically singing like his like favorite song through like the whole radio phone. So like about the break 11 might have exactly to convince might like 11 right now itself like might have like to stop like the frequencies and might have used 11 like superhuman powers to like connect like the frequencies like the radio phone of Mike to like the radio phone of Bill and that might be how like Mike might have right now heard uh, like Will's like voice through like the radio phone. So Mike is definitely my brother. And this might be the precise reason for like even while Mike shouts out to like Will through his radio phone as Mike shares like the song that Will was singing, still there being like absolutely no response from Will's side. Like it will be precisely due to like like basically it's not even being like a phone call fluctuation, like it's just being like 11 connecting like the frequencies just for like a brief time before which like since like it might have been putting a lot of tone on 11 like just 11 having like the note like that might have been like the limit currently that 11 could like connect like the phone connection between like the radio phone connection between like the real world and parallel world and that's why like precisely because of 11 reaching this limit that they have limit would be like the first reason for like Mike even by shouting through this like radio for not getting a response from Will right now. It's definitely my book impression. Also like definitely my book impression right now as for like 11 only right now deciding to like basically use the radio phone to like basically get like Will's voice through like the radio phone and that way like convince Mike that Will is alive like basically the fact that like 11 only use such a method only right now. The deeper fitness only due to like how much extremely it would be like taking it would be disturbing for 11 to use super human power. It's definitely my opinion, especially because of the nose bleed and everything. I'm possibly on top of like this game like extremely possibly like um affecting 11th like health like in a negative manner. On top of that, like basically it would be maybe even painful for 11 to while using her superpowers. It's definitely not the same. So like I was referring, and like it would be like also like possibly that whenever 11 uses her superpowers, like it might also be like a reminder of trauma from like the days in like Brent's lab and everything. So like I was wondering, 11 would be extremely hesitant to like use her superpower, and it would be the precise reason for like 11 to entire time like while 11 could like easily convince like um, Mike and his like friends about like being will being alive, and still the fact that 11 only right now decided to like basically with the radio phone to like convince Mike to give especially due to like 11 feeling so extremely pushed and forced to like use 11 superpower and to convince Mike precisely because right now 11 would be caring about Mike that much, especially when it was for impression. So definitely my positive impression right now that basically now I'm considering definitely Mike, not only Dustin and Lucas, but also I'm considering Mike as well right now with their whole absolute joy as like right now they had basically thought that they had totally and absolutely lost will like with them the right now totally with like Mike right now totally realizing that basically the possibility of like will actually still being alive like about to bring Mike without much delay at all, like telling this to like Lucas and Dustin, like them initially not believing it, and about to bring Mike shortly forcing for 11 to like once again use some superpower, and about to bring into 11 would be like hesitant, and about to bring 11 solely due to like 11 like genuine like affection that 11 would be having towards like Mike as a good friend, that about to bring that 11 and like putting herself through that same situation and basically once again using her superpower and once again for 11 having like the lead and basically that way like once again like the next time I was bring at that point that basically along with like Mike there would be like Lucas and Dustin and in front of the three of them like 11 using her superpower and basically them being able to like steer with voice and possibly even talk to Will as well. It's definitely a win for the end. So, but like I'm supposed to through the really for like the scenario that I'm describing. But like I'm supposed to bring at that point, like 11 would be like solely to like help them out as like a good friend. Like I'm supposed to bring 11 totally forcing and pushing herself to like even go beyond her limits to push herself to go beyond her limit of her using her superpower. And that way, like I'm supposed to bring like still I'm supposed to bring like Mike and his friends like making the carelessly not even considering like 11 health like I'm recovering them totally like naively like due to their excitement of like basically and their absolute disaster like save wins like they are focused was the only one win and I'm considering them to like totally like ignore for 11s and like the strain that 11 is like going through and everything. So like I'm considering that way like I'm considering that for 11 like like just like for repeater like I'm preparing like my kind of for like pushing elements to like for them to like repeatedly contact like win again and again like the future and I'm preparing that totally like putting that absolute strain on like 11 health and I'm preparing like that slowly starting to like see after 11 health in a serious manner. It's like the winter scenario that I'm thinking of the first thing and I'm preparing maybe like even maybe even going unconscious or like just going through some sort of like an extreme like health situation eventually. So they due to like in an insensitive manner like Mike and his friends like taking 11 and putting it in 11 through that extreme strain of like repeatedly like making them communicate with like with the scenario that I'm considering. And I'm considering it to be only from that point on that I'm considering Mike and his friends like Lucas and us will be like starting to like think through like an empathetic manner towards like 11. It's like the scenario that I'm considering. And then like I'm considering them to like totally tone down on their contact with like Win and everything. And I'm considering like them totally like trying to like figure things out and strategizing on their own and basically them like basically talking to 11 more than Win and talking to 11 more and basically trying to like find out all the details about like the battle word and everything and like uh, and everything. And basically in that way, like I'm considering from that point on, like I'm considering that contact with Win would be like a lot lesser, but like each time like they would be contacting Win, like they would be like doing like while they would be separately like planning out exactly what exactly to ask or like even send with like each time they would be contacting Will through the radio phone through like 11 cell from that point on, and that way like in an empathetic manner next time like it's only being towards like from that point on like the scenario that I was on the hand of the okay, so like definitely going to consider emergency right now as per like Mike's mother care and like basically dropping off telling Mike that he's going to drop off Nancy and then going to see like Barbara's parents. Like definitely that like right now Mike and Nancy's mother, like Karen right now would be planning a lot of things like stuff Karen's like meeting with like Barbara's like parents would have a lot of importance right now. It's definitely like the scenario that I was on the morning. Especially because like I'm also worrying, especially with like the news about like twins that like especially with like already Nancy being like so extremely worried as to that and being filled with that absolute guilt of like Barbara's disappearance. Like on top of that, like and definitely even then like I'm also worrying like Nancy in like the middle of the night like in the previous night like when Nancy had made it back home. Like basically, definitely Nancy would have only confessed everything to like her mother and almost like everything to her mother connecting to like Barbara's disappearance. But like I was bring like this like the news about like Will's body as well being found like about that would have been like the biggest shock. And given the biggest shock and scare as well to like Nancy's definitely was so like after hearing that news like I was doing Nancy would have straight away gone up to her mother, Karen, and might have confessed everything as to like every or each and every single detail as to like what has happened during that day at like Steve's party, and not only that, but like even after that, like basically the whole situation that basically happened with like Jonathan and basically Steve and all of them, and Jonathan's photos and everything, like basically, and Nancy might have even shown like that size photo of Barbara that she had taken from Jonathan. Nancy might have even given that photo to like Karen as well. It's definitely my brain. And Nancy might have explained and told all that to like Karen. It's definitely my brain present. Especially because like Nancy right now only so extremely afraid and worried for like Barbara's safety, especially because of like Will's body being found. So like Nancy would be so extremely afraid of like with like Barbara right now being like the next person to like disappear. Like the possibility of Barbara's body being found next will be like that such a scenario of like a possibility might be like giving such an extreme worry and care to like your Nancy that I'm going to bring. Nancy might have that Nancy might be like right now drowning in guilt and feeling so helpless that I'm considering Nancy might have confessed each and every single detail of like everything that happened to like Karen. So like I'm considering especially Karen as well. I'm considering like but like I'm considering when Nancy might have confessed all this to like Karen, like what Nancy might have also told to Karen that like even though what Jonathan had done of like taking the photos were like simply weird like still considering like Nancy might have totally told her mother Karen that basically still she is strongly believes that like Jonathan would definitely won't be having like anything to do at all behind like Barbara's disappearance. Might be one thing that Nancy might have strongly told to her mother Karen instead of my private. But like I'm considering like Karen might have definitely not believe Nancy like even though Nancy might be like genuinely believing that like Jonathan would be genuinely innocent behind for like Barbara's disappearance. I'm considering like in the case of Karen, like I'm considering Karen would be like strongly deep down thinking that like something is like totally off with like Jonathan solely due to like the act of like Jonathan taking all those photos uh, during Steve's like house party. So definitely my that's the thing to my because Jonathan taking all that photos would be solely due to like basically Jonathan like on even more than like still being like worried with like disappearing in and especially with like states that home party taking place in like a location that's like close to like the Mudford location like basically but still I'm also bring like even more than like him being like worried like Johnson being worried for like the all of the like all of them that were present there like Steve the party including Steve Tommy Carol, Barbara, and Nancy, like even way more than that, I'm considering like that. Seeing Nancy there and Nancy having a good time with the team that basically that might not only broken the heart of like Jonathan that I'm going to bring like that might have only put Jonathan in an extremely sad and like confused like state. That might be like such a reason for like Jonathan like taking that grave mistake of like taking all those photos. It's definitely what might have happened. It's definitely my grave. So like, but still I'm going to bring like definitely like Karen, like Nathan's mother, not at all being able to like understand this. So it's definitely one of the things. And Karen would be absolutely unaware as for like Jonathan, possibly like they having that absolute affectionate feelings towards like her daughter Nancy, and all that. Like would be one thing that Karen would be totally unaware of, especially with the women. So like Karen right now would like on real like on definitely she would be like she would have right now found out through Nancy about like Jonathan taking all these pictures. So like character, for people like character will be like right now totally treating like Jonathan as like basically something is totally off with like Jonathan. And about the brain, so Karen would be like, right now totally substituting Jonathan definitely as like the person behind like the care of the Barbara is definitely not different. Especially looks like uh, the love especially like it was like Johnson that had last seen Barbara. Simply because of like the last photo of Barbara even being present with like Jonathan, which like right now Nancy have with like Nancy right now would have only shown Karen. And those different like right now with like Karen heading off dropping Nancy at school like with like Karen right now planning on meeting meeting Barbara's parents like right now but only something that Karen was doing right now only being like extremely selfish and considering Karen only even wanting to like think in like an extremely pragmatic manner just solely to like protect her daughter Nancy like the scenario that I'm assuming which is like Nancy had totally lied to Barbara's parents and basically to go to like Steve's home party and since that home party seeing like this is like Barbara has gone missing like the last thing about the like Nancy's mother Karen would want will be for like Barbara's parents to like totally believe that basically to totally put all the blame on her daughter Nancy for like the disappearance of Barbara and like the last thing Karen would want would be for like Barbara's body as well after like this body like basically Barbara's body has been getting found in Italy and basically Barbara as well dying and that way like and has been being blamed by like Barbara's parents for like the remaining of like Nancy's life like basically that something like that happening would be like the last thing Karen would be wanting so like I'm sure Karen would be right now it might have turned into like an extremely selfish person and basically and then remembering that the only thing in Karen's mind right now would be to like totally shift the blame from any possibility of like any blame falling onto her daughter Nancy and totally putting it on to that precisely Jonathan. Like basically, Karen right now would be like totally the tempted to think in like a prejudice manner that it would definitely be Johnson's doing that basically that might have be like the reason for like Barbara Karen's definitely so like I'm considering right now in this like profile as like Karen will be right now going heading off is like right now heading off to like basically meet Barbara's parents like I'm considering like Karen will be totally showing that the photo of Barbara to basically Barbara's like parents and basically I'm considering Karen totally telling Barbara's parents that basically this was like a photo that Johnson took and basically I'm considering like Karen totally telling to Baba's parents how like along the lines of the like Jonathan like was totally acting totally off and basically was taking all these photos and all that. Along such lines of the bring that Karen totally telling Barbara's parents and that way like totally turning Jonathan into like seeming like some like someone who's got like serious issues and all that and basically possibly being the culprit behind like Barbara disappearance. And that way, like about the even Barbara, like parents are will straight away being convinced with like the whole thing that Karen would be telling Barbara's parents, like about even Barbara's parents, like straight away feeling convinced and basically straight away in that them as well in like a man principle of the straight away assuming. And but like especially with like them being extremely, especially I'm considering like even Barbara's parents, like especially after like the body of like will being found like since the from like the moment that news might have spread like impossible at that very moment in the definitely protect like uh Barbara's parents might have definitely instantly might have phoned like the sheriff and might have reported like the complaint of like their missing daughter, settling a burglary and missing. So by now Hopper would be like would be well fully aware of like Barbara's care, but like Hopper right now would be in that absolute shock of like Will's body being found that and the brain. Hopper would be like right now taking a bit of time off to like basically loosen up his mind for him to like continue with like his next search for like Barbara. It's definitely never been so like I'm also with like Karen telling about like Jonathan taking the photos to that Barbara's parents. I'm remembering like Barbara's parents like straight away phoning like Sheriff Hopper, and I'm remembering like Barbara's parents like only complaining to like Hopper about like basically Jonathan. That's like one positive that I was doing. Or like I was doing the moment Karen would be revealing this to like Barbara's parents. I'm remembering Barbara's parents being extremely like totally feeling that absolute rage towards like Jonathan and genuinely feeling that Jonathan would be like the culprit behind their daughter's parents. So like I was thinking, even though it would be like maybe even during like Will funeral and considering that maybe that Barbara's parents like still storming in either towards that either like before Will funeral like I'm just thinking like Barbara's parents like storming into that Will's home and basically them totally like accusing Jonathan of being like the culprit behind their daughter Barbara's disappearance. Or like I was thinking maybe it would be during like this funeral that I'm thinking maybe like Barbara's parents would be showing up there and making a scene and basically blaming Jonathan and basically her fault and absolute disturbance happening inside the in the during like the funeral of Bill and basically I'm considering that only basically affecting that poor like Bill's mother and basically Jonathan. So in like such an extremely negative manner, and then considering like the townsfolk as well, maybe like in a specific manner, like only like feeling as if like something was off with the Jonathan. And all that is like when also like an eventual possible scenario that I'm talking about the protection levels very much. But like I'm still protecting that it would be precisely Hopper that I'm departing like even after that I'm personally not departing like Hopper would be like straight away finding I mean like talk with like Jonathan privately, and Jonathan I'm different by then would be like certainly that would be thought senior rock bottom and like would be thought senior down with all the false accusations and unfortunately still like the fact that whole interaction between Hopper and Jonathan definitely Hopper which is partially evident for like Hopper that basically Jonathan is like definitely and absolutely innocent. So like I'm considering like Hopper straight away going up to like Barbara's parents and talking to Barbara's parents and I'm considering at that point like through that interaction like Barbara's parents like they are revealing to Hopper that it was like specific care that basically had told them about like the photos and everything about Jonathan taking the photos and everything. So like that way like Hopper eventually ending up with talking to Karen and that way like Karen like Hopper through the interaction with like Karen and considering Hopper eventually talking to Nancy and through Nancy I'm considering like Hopper like through and Nancy I'm considering Hopper would be like totally getting like even more of a convincing kind of like kind of like a response or like a reply and then considering like that way like Hopper eventually questioning Steve and all of them and then but Steve and Tommy and Carol are considering them to only uh, to also fight like for accuse like Jonathan as like basically definitely possibly being like the culprit behind like Barbara Fruitier. But like and at that point I was only bring 2% to like either like Hopper to like without much great delay like basically Hopper like still figuring out some sort of a clue that would be like such a crucial clue that or like an evidence that would be able to like quickly prove that like Jonathan is like totally innocent and not the culprit behind like Barbara's disappearance. That's like one positive that I'm also saying. But second positive is basically for like for person not be able to like find like any sort of clue or like a proper solid evidence as to like only prove that like Jonathan is like innocent. So Hopper deep down would be like absolutely sure that Jonathan is like innocent, like him still not being able to like find any being able to like find any proper clue or evidence as to like Jonathan being innocent. And since like even like the evidence of like the photos are of like Barbara, then Barbara's last scene is totally against Jonathan and Pacific, maybe like Hopper for the time being not being able to like save Jonathan, not being able to like help Jonathan at all. But like I'm considering that Hopper desperately trying to like throw Jonathan's mission, but like I'm considering that it will be only in the system like Hopper will be able to like succeed in that. But until that point, I'm considering like or maybe like the entire town, not just Barbaros Pat, but like the entire town's force that only all of them like falsely accusing Jonathan, and basically like demolishing Jonathan as like been held as like something to offset like Jonathan and basically that way like Jonathan falsely accused maybe not only by Barbaros Pat but also by like the townsfolk of like Hawkins town as well. So the like individual and that way like Jonathan as well as like with mother like having to like suffer a lot until that Jonathan will be eventually like doing being proven innocent by Hopper. It's like the future possible scenario. It would be like one of these two possibilities that a person would bring and the story from shit. Okay, so like definitely the story I'm mentioned right now as for like Bill's mother right now asking for like the birthmark on like the Bill's right arm. I'm considering like in like the body of Bill there won't be that birthmark on like the right arm. That's the scenario that I'm considering. Especially because like I'm considering there will be like similarity yet differences in like the things that will be happening in like the real world as well as like the parallel world. Especially like the different things. So there will be like there might not definitely be like parallel version of not just Will but also like of other people in like the real world that might have existed in like the parallel world. Like their lives might have like there might have definitely be existed like a lot of differences in like between them as well in their lives, like in the way they live like their lives and everything. And which might have one main factor which might have even resulted in like this black hole attack and disappearance and other things by these aliens, which would have totally be like the result of like the parallel version of that of Brenner, Brenner's like experiment on like the parallel version of 11 in like the parallel world that might have turned 11 into this like alien like form. It's definitely my personal result alien like creature like form is definitely my memory and riches. So like there will be similarities yet differences between like the real world as well as like the parallel world. Definitely when you say and the reason I'm definitely right up writing like the birthmark and the brain definitely won't be present in like the body of like the will that has been right now found. Definitely by those references. You know, like I'm considering precisely that would be that major, giving that even more of like a major boost of confidence and hope for like Will's mother. That like that body's not that of Will is definitely going to be interesting. Like I'm considering like Will's mother like right now telling Jonathan about this, but like I'm considering like Jonathan would have just been exposed to the observe that like just seeing once Will's body once that I'm considering Jonathan only feeling that like this is not that basically his mother is like going crazy and basically like Jonathan I'm considering not feeling it, but like I'm considering definitely Hopper would be like only checking that out and about to bring like Hopper to totally confirm that right now about to bring exactly that to happen like Hopper totally listening to like his mother and basically Hopper totally confirming that that was not and about to with the records that would be existing in that Will's home as to like the identification birthmark and everything and basically like Hopper would be able to like confirm it that what his mother saying is like exactly true and that way, like, I'm going to try, like, for connecting that with, like, basically the person who does the autopsy, like, Gary, him, like, him forcefully being sent away from doing the autopsy and all that, like, basically, for definitely being able to connect it. And basically, from this point on, from that point on, it's like, so, like, right now, considering without much great delay at all, like, Hopper would be, like, coming to, most likely coming to the conclusion that, like, Will's mother would be most likely, there would be a lot of truth in what, like, Will's mother would be saying that basically, like definitely will would still be alive and just like body of like this person who looks identical to that of Will might actually not see like the actual true Will that when the six like Hopper coming to such a conclusion in such a quick span of time is like the scenario that I'm going to reporting right now and whether to reimburse it. Okay, so like definitely what is the reimbursement right now as for like Nancy right now telling Steve as to like what she kind of had seen that as basically kind of like a guy with like a mask or like an face like basically like all these interactions like all these things that basically And as he's right now telling Steve like a political like about the project definitely for this would be like eventually turning into as like false accusation against precisely for Jonathan. It's like there is a scenario that is like because like I was going next to like I'm definitely like it is my Nancy says like it's not a mask, it's like it seemed like a guy with like no face and basically still basically I'm considering that it will not be that assumed that like a guy with a mask basically stalking like basically Nancy when Nancy had showed up to like Steve home when Steve wasn't present there. So like basically that precisely I'm considering like Steve totally concluding and assuming this as basically that precisely being Jonathan stalking Nancy as Nancy had shown up to like Steve's home. Precisely like during like the Steve during the night of like Steve's home party as well when Jonathan had this mid shop like all of them basically that way like I'm going to from Steve's point of view like about and Steve I'm definitely going to I'm definitely putting like Steve totally telling this to like Carol and Tony as well and I'm going to bring them all like totally collectively coming to the conclusion that it was definitely Jonathan in the math that definitely Nancy might have seen talking in like Steve's home and Steve also perfect. So like that way them all coming to the conclusion that like Jonathan is like this like ultimate culprit and like a crazy person and like a culprit behind like Barbara's disappearance and like with like the precise person in like the mask that Nancy had seen was also like Jonathan in like a mask like and he had basically shown up there stalking Nancy to like precisely and following Nancy to like precisely also like it might have been like Jonathan's like attempt to like abduct Nancy as well from which like Nancy might have escaped would be along the line considering of like a conclusion and then Fox assumption to which like considering potentially Steve, Tommy and Carol would be eventually coming to eventually once they would be questioned by Hopper or like once like considering Barbara's parents would be like worried showing up to Steve's home after like finding out of proof Karen about like Steve's like home passage and everything like I'm assuming once like Baba parents would be like definitely is talking to like Steve that at that point after the point Steve possibly it would be like either Steve alone or like Steve, Tommy as well as Carol being present there and them all like totally falsely accusing Jonathan uh, it's like gives a scenario that I'm going to So like all this interaction right now with like Nancy and Steve and Nancy telling Steve about like the mysterious guy's presence when Nancy was at Steve's home with like kind of like a map or like a notice and basically all that. Like basically this would be all eventually turning into that for evidence against like Jonathan. Like the scenario that I'm moving on the program as a right now. But definitely nothing very ambitious. Like even then, even while I'm going to, like eventually, especially for like not only Tommy, Carol, and Steve, but like Karen as well, like Nancy's mother, Karen as well, definitely, as well as like Barbara's parents, like like all these people would be like only accusing, falsely accusing, and genuinely believing that basically Jonathan is behind, and like maybe the Will, death of Will as well as like not just behind like the disappearance of Barbara, but also like behind like the death of Will as well would be along the lines like all this people would be like at that point thinking with like the scenario that I'm going to bring. But even then like the people who would be like genuinely believing that like Jonathan is like innocent would be like definitely Mike would definitely be believing that Jonathan is innocent, especially because like of Mike only having that as a great bond of friendship with like then definitely might have failed to like win so many like the past multiple times as well, and might definitely know Jonathan a lot more than all the so like I'm also bring like Mike as well definitely would be like absolutely certain that basically Jonathan would never do anything like that and that Will's brother Jonathan will definitely not do anything like that. That Jonathan is innocent. Like the fact that Jonathan is like innocent would I'm considering like the only people to would be like believing in that would be just Jonathan's own mother, like as well as like Mike, as well as Hopper, and as well as like Nancy. Nancy as well definitely I'm considering even by all of them all of the people around Nancy would be like totally falsely accusing in that Jonathan as like the culprit still able to bring Nancy as well definitely deep down having that feeling that basically definitely Jonathan is innocent. which definitely also like given the scenario that I'm going to bring another interesting. And the interesting side like that absolute feeling and that like Nancy would be definitely only having within that basically Jonathan would definitely be innocent, which was the like that feeling to like remain in Nancy exactly unwavered, exactly like that. Even while like all the evidence would be against like Jonathan, still I'm considering like Nancy firmly believing that like Jonathan is innocent, and I'm considering that feeling would be like eventually what and considering would be bringing Nancy close up to like Jonathan and even away from Steve, like as like Steve and all of them would be like even more uh, maybe like making fun of like towards Jonathan and will be like being even more rude towards like uh, uh, towards Jonathan and to record that like slowly creating that more and more of a distance from Nancy towards like Steve and more moving Nancy more and more closer towards like Jonathan to which like definitely I was bring like Nancy's mother Carol as well will be like totally scolding and will be against like Nancy even being close toward like Jonathan as well. It's like also like pivotal scenario that I'm talking about, right? But still like Nancy totally disobeying like Carol and totally Nancy doing her gut instinct that like Jonathan is innocent and basically Nancy and Jonathan totally growing the bond between them growing stronger. That with the scenario that I'm working on the topic and my very impressive. Also, like the film was very impressive right now as for like this current scene in like the public of like a quarrel between like Jonathan of like a loud quarrel between like Jonathan and like his mother like they like, in public like basically them even like Jonathan like their whole quarrel about being crazy and all that like basically I'm considering like the public even witnessing that, like all that number of different like eventually like snowball up and basically add up to that one like the initial scenario that I was considering would be like basically the Johnson taking like the photographs and everything like basically eventually of Barbara and everything like basically eventually ending up with resulting in like basically Johnson being falsely accused as like the mysterious person like that behind like the uh, that as like the person behind like the abduction of that Barbara as well as possibly like the death of him as well. Basically, like at that point when like Jonathan would be totally accused, like I'm also saying that there would be like all this like eyewitness of like at that point like I'm going to bring like there will be all these eyewitness like who might have witnessed like witness who right now witnessed the quarrel between like Jonathan and like his mother in like public like all that like I'm going to bring them all these eyewitness as well totally uh, totally testifying or like basically uh, like being like eyewitness as like evidence as to like basically them as well saying like that there's something off with like the family of Win and basically along this line that basically that the possibility of like adding up and all this like basically all this fighting and quarreling in like public and all that like so only adding to like the public suspicion to like the false accusation against like Jonathan at that point as for like the precise as for him being like the precise possibly behind like the death of wins as well as like the terrors of Barbara, like all these things, all this public quarrel and everything would be adding up to like increasing that suspicion of like the public uh, uh towards like Jonathan is like there is the scenario that about is all perfect and might have been not just the public but like except for Hopper like I'm maybe like suspicion from like the other sheriffs as well. I'm bring maybe even other police as well and bring maybe falling towards like Jonathan is also like a possibility that I'm going to bring like also like the film was very interesting right now is like Steve being so extremely afraid of like his father, like really getting angry over his like house party and everything. Because bring like right now like what Steve to like basically Steve right now about to bring to totally attempt to like change up like the story and as to like what truly happened and then to, like to not only to not get like into troubles with like by his like father like anticipating Steve totally switching up the story and anticipating like without Nancy finding out like anticipating like Steve totally teaming up with like telling like Tommy and Carol to like basically totally straight away to like change up the story that basically once like eventually like the police would be questioning them like at that point like I'm going to bring according to like Steve's idea I'm going to bring like Tommy as well as Carol like only telling the police that basically they were all having like just a combined study at like basically at certainly Steve's home like and I'm going to bring like Steve would be like totally would be totally feeling confident because like of that Steve totally naively assumed that he had torn up like all of lecture photos that basically he had took, like basically that Jonathan had taken that night. So like I'm also bring like like so Steve would be totally naively saying that basically like since there will be no more photo evidence like Steve would like totally like lie about like the combined study and since like there's no photo evidence like that would be like straight away showing that it's like it was like an actual house party that took place like I'm wondering she would be only or confidently think that you could like totally lie about like them having combined study at like use home and basically at that point like Jonathan having like basically taken like had basically stopped them and basically that way to like put on the to create this fake story and like totally put like the entire blame to like Jonathan and basically Jonathan is like someone like that's like totally crazy and basically like so like I was very still even going to the extent of like maybe even falsely accusing Jonathan. The frame would be through still that maybe I'm going to next to still that would be first accusing Jonathan of like what they have being like the person behind not only Barbara's disappearance but also possibly behind like Bill that as well. Like along such lines I'm also bringing like he like only accusing falsely accusing Johnson as well. It's like the scenario that I'm going to bring and Tommy as well as Carol as well totally like agreeing to Steve and like them as well formally falsely accusing and trying to let Tony and fully frame Johnson that way. It's like also like a scenario that I'm considering. And I'm considering maybe like this wouldn't just be a complete frame, but like I'm considering while Steve and Tom and Carol would be like lying about like the house party, like I'm considering maybe like there would be like a certain extent of like their thinking where like they would get only they will be feeling as if like John it might have actually been Johnson that might act not only be behind that Barbara disappearance, but also like behind possibly that good stuff as well. Like and they might be also think that by now Barbara as well might be activated. It's also that certainly because of like the whole photo, like basically the fact that like because of like the sole act of like Johnson taking the photo that might like basically that might have only uh, like uh, like turned Jonathan into such an experience of Jesus even for like Steve and like others as well to a genuine extent as well. It's also definitely also very embarrassing. Also, like the Liverpool versus even while I think like the only photo Nancy have is that of like Barbara sitting by the pool, like I'm forgiven by she had basically torn off all the remaining photos that Johnson had taken. I'm surprised still most likely Johnson might have like picked up all those like torn off photos, especially with the version. That's like one photo that I'm considering, or like I'm considering possibly investigating that area in like the school and then the super Jonathan usually being able to like find like the torn still being able to like somehow find like the all the torn of pieces like the majority of the torn of pieces of like the photos that would be selected up from like I'm basically Hopper being able to like collect all those photo pieces and piece it all together, and that way totally prove Steve, Tony, and Carol to like lie, and basically prove that they are like, and basically that way like Steve's father finding out that like Steve was like totally lying to him, and like Steve had conducted like a house party and all that, like basically that way Steve eventually getting into trouble. With his like father as well, like an individual scenario that I think is probably particular was very okay, so like the Filipinos Victoria Amundsen right now with like my kind is quite like right now displacing in event to like get her to like the school to use the radio. Like I'm considering right now right now I'm considering like the scenario to be like basically it will be most likely like my friends along with like 11 like either it will be while they will be like entering like the school and would be trying to make their way into that room where like the radio would be like while they would be on like the while they'll be on their way towards like the school, like after entering the school, definitely I'm considering that protest bully that says to example to bring like them to like once again try to like bully Mike and his like friend and right then able to bring like Eleven definitely putting them in their place. It's like the scenario that I'm going to do. So like I'm going to bring definitely perfect the scenario to happen and using like 11 superpower. It's like scenario that I'm going to do. So like I'm going to bring definitely that to happen either while my candidate friends will be on their way to like use the radio or like I'm also bring it would be like after they will be like stealthily using their radio at school and would be finally and if they were saying like from like the radio at school like it should be having that higher intensity I'm also bring them to be able to like communicate with like the scenario that I'm doing and my candidate friends getting that absolute shock and that they will be so happy and excited and when they will be like all happy and excited and even as well they would all be like happy and they would be like leaving casually leaving like the school it would be at that precise point I was to bring them being confronted by the those kids who would be like once again trying to like bully Mike and his person like and I was to bring definitely uh, even more than Mike and for example so most likely them noticing 11 and I was to bring them maybe trying to like bully 11 and I'm going to bring like, or like I'm going to bring like scenario to be like them trying to bully Mike and right and like 11 standing in like the way. And basically them trying to bully 11 at that point, 11 using a superpower and basically putting that in their place. So like I'm going to bring it to be either on their way to use the radio or like it would be after they will be like joyfully like done using like the radio and communicating with each other. I'm like to bring that definitely like the bullies to like show up. It's like the scenario that I'm going to bring it. Okay, so like definitely this is very aggressive right now as for like Dr. Miller right now calling like the scientist by the name Shepherd son like I'm to it might have those like maybe being actually run up like at the sun or like I'm to it might have those like runner like basically being so totally fond of like that the first scientist by the name Shepherd maybe due to that him being like a brilliant scientist and might have in like the past helped out run up so much with the research like experiments and everything. So maybe like such an affectionate manner, like runner might have, he might be like maybe Shepard might be one of that runners like promising and like favorite scientists, especially in the runners. You know, maybe that possibly being the reason for like runners calling him son. It's definitely like the other possibility that I'm also covering. So uh, possible reason is what I'm also covering. And I'm considering right now definitely for like Shepard to definitely not die, but like I'm considering Shepard definitely getting lost in that precise, and I'm considering that definitely like that uh, precise that portal like thing that that Shepard is right now walking into like uh would be definitely be like that portal that might have been created through like the Dr. Brenner like experiment in like the real world like this precise portal like thing might have already been created and like definitely Brenner might have not been present while this portal might have been created. Like I'm about to bring like in like the very beginning, like that precise scientist that got initially got abducted by like the alien like creature, like him and his like him and his like team might have done some sort of like an experiment in like Brenner's absence and that might have created like this like portal just like the scenario that I'm looking through. It's like straight away like that mother alien might have like which might have definitely been like the parallel version of 11 being transformed into like the parallel world run up run up like experiment on like the parallel world 11 going wrong. That's definitely what might have happened if the with the rainbow. So like that mother alien might have that way entered into like the human world into like the real world is definitely my big favorite. So, like right now I'm also preparing like definitely like with like scientist Shepard would be right now going into like the parallel world through that portal. It's definitely what the good to do what might be right now happening is definitely my favorite. So like I'm preparing as like Shepard would be like entering into that portal like and into like the parallel world. I'm preparing like without much delay at all. Like I'm preparing like that line cable connecting to that Shepard like I'm just preparing that to get cut off just like I'm considering like for there to be like a loud scream from Shepherd from within like the barrel world, which will be heard through into like the real world. and Brenner and all of them, towards like Brenner and all of them. So like at that point, I was like a loud scream from Shepard from like the parallel was happening, and like quickly Brenner giving the order to like quickly pull back Shepard using like the line cable, but like I'm considering right then that like the line cable cut getting cut off. It's like this another episode. Like or like I'm considering they will be like quickly pulling out like the line cable and like they will be seeing like the end of like the line cable being cut off. And that way like Shepard totally going missing as well. Disappearing as well is next with another way. And I'm considering Shepard maybe lying in like the future, but like as of right now, I'm considering Shepard would be like would be like the situation for Shepard and the spring would be like upper entering without was created at all after entering into like the parallel world. A Shepard would be like attacked by like the alien which that alien would using its like first attack would be itself like so like I'm considering like the very first attack of that alien, like I'm considering Shepard, like that line cable attached to like Shepard might be like getting cut off. So like at that point, so, I'm considering Shepard won't be able to quickly return back to like the real world. So like I'm considering Shepard like quickly in order to like get away from the alien, I'm considering Shepard maybe quickly like taking cover somewhere in like the parallel world and trying to hide somewhere in like the parallel world. And that way, like Shepard as well, like getting lost in like the parallel world is like the scenario that I was doing on the perfect. And my cousin Remus and I'm considering like definitely it will be only like maybe like I'm considering maybe eventually Shepard even running to win. It's also like an eventual possible scenario that I'm considering. Anyway, like still I'm definitely something like Shepard to like eventually like be taken the life of by like the alien. Uh, eventually it's like the scenario that I'm looking on like I'm noticing. Okay, so like the cinema history and picture by the author, like the sheriff's not finding like Barbara's car outside Steve's home. I'm not saying it would totally have to do with like as soon as like Nancy had told Steve about like Barbara's disappearance and also like Steve on being afraid of like basically his father finding out about like the house party and everything like that. So Steve might have decided to like totally get all evidence connecting to like Barbara showing up to like his home and like the house party is definitely very good. So like in order to do that, like first of all, like he might be only off confident saying that basically especially because like he has thrown away all the photos of like Jonathan, like basically difference connecting to like the house party has already got erased and along such manner would be what Steve would be probably thinking. So like then what Steve might have after hearing about like Barbara's share from Nancy, like considering like what Steve might have straight away done might have been Steve might have only got like Tommy and Carol and pursuing then might have worked together and then might have somehow managed to like start up like Barbara stuff without even she is definitely my brother. So like I was saying that might have been what might have happened. Like they might have he might have throw up like Barbara car and hid it somewhere deep within the forest. It's definitely my brother emulsion and Tommy Carroll and Steve might have walked their way back and basically they might have hid that like Barbara's car somewhere in like the forest and they might have came back to like Stu's home and that way that hiding that way they might have only believed that that way they have gotten rid of like all evidences that of like Barbara who's like now missing, even showing up to that stage for like the party. It's definitely what might have been done right now by Steve and Tommy and Carol. Right now might be what might have they might have done right now, and that might be the such a reason for like Barbara Scott's disappearance, sudden disappearance from Steve's home. It's definitely also my opinion. So like I was Steve might have only expected that basically so like this way like basically so like my references were like this way like what Steve might have totally thought would be like this way, especially things like it was Nancy, such a person that had like basically escaped. And Nancy might have even during like the day of like the house party, like Nancy might have even told Steve about like having lied to Barbara to like get Barbara to bring her car so that like Nancy could like go to like Steve's party. It's definitely member Steve might be already when I'm fully aware of this. It's definitely member reimbursement. So like on top of that, like basically by getting rid of like the car of Barbara, like so like that way, like once like right now that Nancy would be like totally telling once like the church will be questioning Nancy or like once Nancy would be like telling the church about like like about like the house party and all that. Like at that point, like the sheriff won't be having like any evidence to like basically kill you Nancy at that point. And basically to even think that basically Barbara, what Nancy is saying is true and that there was like a house party at Steve's home and that basically Barbara had to shown up with like Steve's home that night especially because of no evidence being present of that. It's definitely my best prevention. That way to like totally avoid like selfishly for Steve to like totally avoid like the possibility of like the sheriff like showing up to like Steve's home or like questioning Steve and that way to like totally prevent like the possibility of like Steve's father, like Steve's parents, like finding out Steve's father, like finding out about like the house party that was placed in like Steve's home would be like along like the selfish lines of like ways of thinking that Steve would be having and like this would be exactly possibly what Steve might have done to like that way. It's definitely my personal impression. Okay, so like basically in short, like the impressions that like Steve is there right now that only just to not get into trouble with like his father, like Steve will be right now trying to like frame Nancy into that, putting Nancy into that absolute trouble. I think this is like he would be like well fully aware by now as to like Nancy having lied to like Barbara's parents to like basically to like basically get Barbara to like fake Nancy to like Steve's home party that night like I'm and right now it's like Barbara missing and all that like basically just to like just for like his parents just so that like his father won't be finding out about his home party like Studio right now trying to like just to ensure that Studio right now trying to like put all the blame into like Nancy and to make Nancy look like the future of like the police and police and everyone and Barbara's parents to make Nancy look like the ultimate liar and the suspicious person that basically it would be like what she would be like totally in like an extremely insensitive and like selfish manner would be like what she would be like right now. That would be like how much that would be all that numbers of pregnancy would even be meaning to for Steve. In actuality, it's definitely my personal impression, and this would be exactly what she would be right now even doing and attempting. Is definitely also my personal impression. Okay, so like the Philippines impression right now with like just like sick or something like of so future people like being like supposed to like kind of like bring James Bond and like sort of thing. So like I'm considering definitely like the scenario would be like runner like move. Like it would be like all runners plan to like basically cover up his track. Like definitely after this like the consequence of this experiment like they need to cover up his track like I'm considering definitely to like end like the investigation of like search and everyone to like basically not to do that like to get on like run up tricks to like go them all by specifically definitely like Pink's body that was sort of found like definitely it's still not again even right now like I'm different definitely there might have definitely not existed like the first mark on like Pink's right now it's definitely my best friend so like I'm different that like there was like Pink's mother asking for that birthmark like I'm wondering what might have happened might have definitely been that those people present right there like during the autopsy, like they might have not allowed like Will's mother to like they might have not shown the birthmark. They might have not allowed to like even show like the birthmark or like the right now. It's definitely my opinion. They might have quickly like made some sort of like excuse might have quickly told like Will's mother to like basically sign the paper. So like that might have straight away even increase like the suspicion of like Will's mother. It's like never different, especially because of especially with like how less like disturbed like this mother was when compared to like Jonathan when they were picked up like the bodies of Will in that whole autopsy room like and very precisely because of like Will's mother being the absolutely that much confident and basically especially because when the precise point when like the Will's body was found like it was precisely during the event that basically Will's mother had basically even spoke to Will through the alphabet like basically specifically because of his reason, Vin's mother definitely had that absolute confidence that Vin definitely haven't died. So like even after like seeing the body, like the fact that Vin's mother was like way more stable than she was usually. So precisely because of that, her absolute confidence that that definitely. You know that it's exactly like with body, like that definitely not with body, it's definitely not with religion. So like I'm saying, it's happening from like the birth, not like definitely those people staying at the location of like the autopsy in charge of which body and then like would be precisely pranav people with definitely will do the so like I'm also saying they might have not allowed and they might have not shown like the birth mark to his mother Stephanie will do they might have tried to like force with mother into that trying to like sign the document precisely like that way trying to like force with mother into confirming that her own son did. It's definitely my mother so like definitely that this would be like I'm considering right now as like how what the runner and his team might have done. Definitely, my considering like basically it might be precisely this person that among like runners like science team like basically by the name Shepherd, who maybe would be actually runner son or like would be like an exceptional like that scientist who would always be like the one doing this exact thing in that of you might be like the first person that might have even gone up to like the parallel world through that precise line cable like he might have initially gone up to the parallel world and captured like the parallel world version of which that was present in like the parallel world and he might have that renaissance the team might have taken that parallel world version of Will's life and might have put the body on the lake and that way he might have tricked that try to and his team might have tried to trick everyone that way. This might have been what might have happened. Which definitely never able. So like right now with that the scientist Shepard like right now once again using the line cable like basically heading back into like the parallel world, which would be what he would just do right now. And preferring King Uja right now trying to find and capture like the parallel world version of Barbara. It's definitely never revelation. So like he was right now either trying to capture like the parallel world version of Barbara or like it wouldn't even matter to like Brenner and their team whether they capture like the parallel world version of Barbara or like the real world version of like Barbara. Like they would just want to capture, they would be like Brenner and their team would be like, they would be having that intellect collecting like skilled people on their team that they would be like already by now itself, they would be like well fully aware of like Barbara's disappearance. So like I'm like to fake Barbara's death, like I'm I'm considering right now, brothers and his team was right now planning on either faking Barbara that by like exactly like in this case, like them trying to like basically capture Barbara from like the parallel world and take her life. Whether it's like the parallel version of Barbara or like the real version of Barbara, it wouldn't matter to the children around his team. Like the intent behind right now sending Shepard into that portal like thing would be to like precisely capture Barbara, take her life, and basically to abandon Barbara's body as well somewhere, and to like make it seem as if like some like villain person, like some criminal is on loose and taking is going around like taking the life of all these people. So basically, to paint and trick like the not just the public, but also like even like the sheriff would be like the attempt of runner right now, which runner would be right now attempting is definitely my personal impression. So like the film and the impression as for like runner, as for why exactly runner and his like team would be like going through right now going through like probably going through like the schemes of like faking like this stuff as well as like right now probably definitely but after like through sending Shepard into that pop and would be trying to like fake labor of this as well like basically as to like why Pranav and their team would be like friendly doing all this would be precisely because of them already having like an history Pranav already having like a history of like a lot of cases filed against him and probably like an Abdul never as well in like the past. So like I'm also we look for all these cases piling up like I'm also very popular and his team would be like right now fearing like the possibility of them eventually getting into trouble with all these cases piling up against them and them possibly eventually getting into serious trouble and reaching a point where like they maybe like when are getting upset and basically sent to jail and punished and like that way like even like the experiments that come to a full stop like basically so totally to like the energy laboratory getting shut down and like their experiments like coming to a full stop and the runner getting arrested and sent to jail for like so prevent such an outcome would be like the precise reason for like them right now struggling and going through such extreme like to basically pay all these steps so that like the sheriffs and like the sheriffs and like the families uh, of like the children that when missing like basically they won't like through their complaint to like the church won't eventually end up tracing up to like and reaching their investigation so that like their investigation won't like uh, come towards like runner and their energy laboratory again. So like to basically so that like that way to like prevent like runner and like energy laboratory from getting into like any further struggle so that they could keep continuing on their experiments would be the successor reason for like runner and team doing all this right now. It's definitely a good